know when you disagree with somebody, it can feel really good to let them have it. But unfortunately, I think there's just a little bit too much of that going on right now. Let me give you a couple of examples. Recently, an MP said that he'd been called a liar, a prick, and several other things that I can't say on camera, because he'd tweeted out that he was going to support the abortion law reform. Around about the same time, the Abortion Law Reform Association encouraged people to email their rage to MPs and posted a button saying, "Blast them." This is the kind of thing that we're seeing as our society grapples with some really big divisive issues right now. Most recently abortion, but before that, euthanasia, cannabis reform, the kind of things that actually really get to the heart of who we think we are and who we think we should be as a nation. So these are issues that matter, but because they matter, it really matters how we approach them. Right now, I think there's a bit of a tendency to dehumanize people when we come to these kind of debates. And that kind of approach is really only going to drive deeper divisions between us. Instead, what we have to hold on to as the antidote is what I'm going to call civility. Civility sounds kind of earnest, but I'm afraid we have to go there. It really just means a respect for other people, even and including the people that you disagree deeply with. It also means a kind of commitment to what I'd call the rules of engagement, the procedures that help us as a society resolve and move on even when we're not going to find common ground on these deeply divisive issues. If you want to know why I think civility is important, you've only got to look across to America under President Trump to see where you can end up when civility starts to fray and to erode. So for example, I think if you're an opponent of euthanasia, you need to recognise that people who support the practice genuinely believe that there's a need for this practice to prevent needless suffering and to respect the dignity of the individual to choose freely. If you're a supporter of euthanasia, you need to appreciate that opponents genuinely believe there is a risk of wrongful death and that that risk is highest for people who are most vulnerable in our society. This is kind of a process of listening to each other. It's what the legal philosopher Jeremy Waldron calls listening to each other as though we deserved a hearing and not just an answer. Trying to make the best and not the worst of the views of the people that we disagree with. Trying to put ourselves in their shoes and imagine that we ourselves could be wrong. It's the kind of approach that I think should steer us away from rage, from abuse, and it should certainly steer us away from stereotype and caricature. After all, when these debates are all said and done, we're still going to have to live together. So we've got to be better than that.